All right, welcome everyone to the Pros Talk, another wonderful episode. I am super excited to have a good friend of mine here, somebody I've grown to know over many years now, but Sophie Cushing from Thousand Islands Hearing Center. Welcome, Sophie.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for hosting this and putting this together because I would never be able to do this on my own. So having this opportunity is a way of me kind of testing the waters and learning from you. Thank you very much.
That is a very scary thought. It's amazing how many people we've interviewed thus far, and they're all leaning on me for expertise. And I'm like, that's the last thing that any of my parents, when they gave birth to me, raised me, wanted anyone to do, is rely on Dave.
Well, let's hope you only had two parents and not several.
That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah, true. That is. I will say there is only two. So, let's get right into the nuts and bolts of it. I want, the point of this podcast is to kind of introduce people to those professionals in the community that we've grown to respect, love, admire. Your service is a key component to the community, and you're in three communities now. We'll get to that, but Sophie Cushing. Who is Sophie Cushing? In a nutshell.
Well, I think in a nutshell, I'm complementary healthcare worker, and I have been all my life, whether I was a massage therapist or whether I was working for a pharmaceutical company back in the old days, and to now being a hearing aid practitioner. I really believe in complementary healthcare, but one of the other things I'm really passionate about is community support. I wouldn't be able to have my business the way it is without the support of the community. And Brockville and Prescott and Iroquois have opened arms to me and have said, come on in, we need somebody that's dedicated to us regarding our hearing healthcare. And they needed somebody that was there and understanding the population to support them purely through the individuality of people or different needs per community, budget concerns, and just overall supporting the community in any way that I can. And it's been a really, really nice marriage because the community has supported me. And in turn, I've been able to support the community in many events. So that whole kind of concept of, stay local and shop local, that is true to mind. I mean, even the Braves, I supported them this year. There's no season for them, but without sponsors, they're not going to be able to have a season next year. And you can't tell me those big pharma companies or the big manufacturer clinics, they don't care. I care. And I've been that way. My kids were raised in these communities. A lot of people know my children. They've been quite successful. I'm proud of them. But kudos to Brockville. Kudos to all the volunteer coaches, to all the volunteer parents, that volunteer clubs that allowed my kids to actually grow and be where they are. And our community, people don't realize how lucky we are of how much we support one another here.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a good topic there. Yeah, no, and that's great segue into it, because as you were speaking, I was thinking, even in, being an architect, we compete, in a sense, compete. We're a mom and pop, we're a family business, right? Same with you. And if we were, like you said, big farm or big architectural firms, they would overlook places like Prescott and Mooresburg or Iroquois or Brockville. Brockville at 25,000 people, Prescott sitting, I don't know, probably at 10,000, Iroquois definitely smaller. They would be like, there's not enough money there, so we're not going to set up a clinic. Where do these people go? Well, here comes Thousand Islands Hearing Center, willing to set up and be that hometown brand, but in different hometowns. And I think that's a key element of you. And I've gotten to know that of you, and where your heart's in a good spot is you really don't care how many people are there. There's a set number of people that are there that need your service and compassion and professionalism. And, hats off to you, because that is exactly what you said. But in layman terms, your competitors, these big hearing centers, they wouldn't even look at it. They're like, drive to Ottawa. If you need hearing, drive to Ottawa, drive to Toronto. We're not going to Iroquois. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
right. It's difficult to even put a value on that, but those people in those neighborhoods and places must just be thankful beyond belief.
And I think they really are. So that's why, word of mouth is really coming into play where, someone's like, well, why are you driving all the way to Orleans or Barhaven when you can walk down the street and Sophie can treat you? But the other thing about me is I am over the top with my education. I am not owned by any manufacturer. So it is my job to learn every product or any new product or anything that's coming onto the market. I need to know the whole basis of it. So I feel that, when someone comes into me and they have a specific type of hearing loss, I know which company has that niche. I know which company has done that research for that type of hearing loss. I'm not, okay, well, I only sell this product line, so I really only know this product line. I don't do that. I know all of them. And, when I say to someone, that's a bad product, it really is a bad product. I mean, there's just no question about it. It's like trying to put a size 2 on someone that wears a size 4 shoe. It's the same kind of thing. It's not a one fit all. So it's really important. And with my staff, they're all local people. They're all people in this community. I provide them with a job. And the only way I can do that is from the community supporting me. Well, those individuals come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, you're giving me so much training. I'm like, of course I am. Like, the best version of you supports the best version of my company, which represents Thousand Islands community. So why wouldn't I not invest in my employees to the point that they're happy, so that they're coming to work happy and they're doing a great job? So, I mean, I feel blessed. Like, I'm
And
so
I think
grateful.
I,
I,
I think I can echo that, because I'm the same way when I treat my staff. Is they're at arm's length of us, but in a
mhm.
sense we hire them to treat those that we can't treat, or to be the face of what we aspire to be. So making them the best they can be, but also empowering. Like, twice now you've mentioned community, and all too well, and most of our listeners will know I'm Mr. Community. I love Brockville, born and raised here, and I do the same. We support things that are key elements that your bigger stores or your bigger farm or these franchisees may not recognize. They still have their part in the community, but these mom and pop shops like yours and mine, and even then, both of our spouses are the same. We have entrepreneur spouses, right, that are in the same
Mhm.
breath. So we're actually double components to the community, because we all support similar or different things. But it is those staff being educated is a representation of us, and we want to hang that trophy on them as much as us.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
unfair
So
to not do that, for sure.
no, they have to be a part of
Mhm.
the equation. They can't be external to the equation,
No,
right? Like they have to be
that's
included.
just silliness.
Well, we
Mhm.
see it sadly in
Definitely.
businesses. I don't know how many times in one day I'm like, I'll have an interaction with a business and I'll be like, did they really just say that? And I'm not in
Oh,
their
I know.
industry, and I'm like, oh my God, how are they surviving? Like, they either handicap their staff, they handicap their training, they dilute their services, or they don't even know their product. And I'm like, I'm an architect. I shouldn't know anything about hearing, you know but if I can
Right.
say, oh, that sounds wrong, and that wasn't a pun when I said that sounds wrong, but it sounded great. um, but you know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't be able to
I
say,
do.
ooh, I see a giant hole in Sophie's game plan, which luckily I have never seen, by the way.
Well, and I would hope that if you did, you would tell me,
I
because
always
I
would,
can't
you know
fix
that.
anything I don't know.
Yeah, no. And that's one of the benefits of this podcast, talking to people from the Ontario approved professionals, and our networking group is, that open dialogue. So many times we hear how we've all become friends, or we have respect because we're all talking on the same plan, or playing
Mhm.
field, and we share that stuff. It's like, hey, Sophie, did you ever think of this? And who knows if it's something as simple as a phone system, or a piece of technology for scheduling. We share it. It's been great. So that's good there, Sophie. I mean, before we get in, we jumped right into these hot topics, and that's going to show our
Yeah, we
friendship.
did.
And yeah, but Thousand Islands Hearing Center. Just give us a bit, like, what's the range of, like, somebody listening that doesn't know what Thousand Island Hearing Center is. They've got their ear pressed up against the radio or the iPhone that they're listening to because they are deaf and require a test. Let's let's tell them just a bit about Thousand
Yeah.
Islands Hearing and the services that you offer.
So it's really funny because people always feel like hearing loss has such a negative stigma to it, which is so sad. I mean, most people think that it's only reserved for the old people, which is not. Like, the reality of it is about 40% of, now this is an American, I didn't have time to look up the Canadian standards, but I'm going to put it like 48%,
Right.
40%, about 48 million people have hearing loss by the time they're 60. That's not old. That's
No.
not old. And the more I'm seeing is we're seeing more and more young adults coming in at 35, 32, 38, and they're having a mild hearing loss. A mild to moderate hearing loss in your 30s is almost as bad as a moderate hearing loss in your 60s. If you're hearing at 35 decibels and everyone around you is hearing at 10 or 15, yeah, you're asking them to repeat on a regular basis. And
Right.
the performance that's required nowadays in our jobs don't allow us to have a mild hearing loss. Mild hearing loss, believe it or not, creates anxiety because you're not hearing right. So you're always second guessing yourself. Did I get that right? And if there's miscommunication in your job or in your relationship with your spouse or children, the amount of conflict that can reoccur. I know you laugh, but it is one of the major reason why people come in. It's like, I'm fighting with my spouse and I have no hearing loss. And I'm like, oh, you do, you know.
Yeah.
But it's so important. And people say, but I can still hear. I'm like, yes, but you can't hear clearly. So
Yeah.
if you don't hear all those sounds clearly, you're actually going to lose the ability to recognize them. So we're not just talking about hearing loss. Hearing is a sense. So it's crucial for our cognitive health to have all our senses working. When you don't see well, you go get cheaters. Or if you can't function with the cheaters, you go get glasses. It's the same thing. If you're not, if you don't know your balance, it's a sense, right? You're going to go look at it. If you can't smell, well, nowadays, if you can't smell, you got to go get COVID tested, but that's not the point. But you do something about it. Like,
Yeah.
you do something about it. So hearing loss is part of your major senses. So I'll never understand why people ignore it.
Do you
But
find do you find that some people ignore it because, how do I put this? I mean, because I'm a guy. I'm gonna say, I have selective hearing, but I mean, going through high school, I was in a band. Little known fact about me, we played, kind of grunge rock music, so it was louder. I was also a
Mhm.
DJ, and I worked in sound equipment. So, if anyone's going to be deaf by the time they're 50 or have hearing problems, I imagine it's somebody that's been cranking that type of wattage into their head, and causing, I don't know, does it equivalent to like wear and tear? Does somebody induce
Yeah.
wear and tear? So somebody like me that's been in a
Yeah.
band, standing on a stage, getting blared at, and wearing headphones and being a DJ. So, if I'm supposed to be having hearing troubles by the time you said average age of 60, does that mean I'm staring down like 55 or 50 and I should, so I guess what I'm asking is, does the stigma, because taste, we all eat, we know taste if it leaves. Smell, we all go out to smell the roses or enjoy spring air. Sight, we love to see the ones we love. Hearing, what's the avenue of people, like, are they just ignoring that sense because it's not considered one of the forefronts?
So I think hearing, if I can use the term insidious, it kind of sneaks up on you, right? Just like
Right.
gray hair. All of a sudden, you've got one gray hair, another gray hair, and I'm like, ooh, I got to do
Yeah.
something about my hair. Well, the hearing loss is kind of like that. It kind of like slowly gets to the point where if, you know, all of a sudden you're like, oh, the TV's got to be cranked. When your loved one tells you you're not hearing well, typically they know. They know.
Especially if it's coming from,
Because
the better half, right? Like, men, how many
that's
years
right.
do we deny before Sophie's going to tap us on the shoulder and say, "Psst, she's right." You're losing your hearing.
Well, I kind of try to play the card that you're both right. So
You're an angel.
because
Thank you for that,
typically,
because we don't want to be wrong.
so so typically what happens with normal, it's called, I always get this one confused, but it's prebicusis hearing loss, which is age-related hearing loss, is that you lose your hearing loss in the high frequencies. So you lose your clarity. So it's not that you can't hear, you're just not unsure if someone said sail, mail, tail, hail, because you're losing that clarity. And as soon as there's background noise, forget it. There's many things that happens with hearing loss, and we've all
Yeah.
seen it. The loud guy in the room probably has hearing loss.
That's me
Dave.
again. I think that's me.
Yeah. Also, the person that controls the conversation usually has hearing loss. So when you see someone that can't actually stop and
Yeah,
listen,
that's number 2.
is usually because they like to know what's coming up next, because if you're in a large group and there's background noise, believe it or not, it's a lot easier subconsciously if you're controlling the topic.
I've always told my wife, so, and I was joking and being serious in the same time, because I check 2 of those boxes. I'm a big, loud, center of the room guy. I'll admit it. I will. And I've already admitted that I was in bands and stuff. So do I have demented or deteriorating hearing? Maybe. But I'll tell you, one of my things, and my wife has actually agreed to this, and so have my parents and those that really, really, really know me. I'm a very high-paced thinker. And my tendency to cut people off is not because I can't hear them, is I'm actually a few steps ahead of the conversation, but I don't want to forget because I overthink things. So I'm thinking about, hey, when Sophie's done talking, I want to ask her, her hair looks great. I want to ask her who her hair is. So when you're about halfway done your sentence, I jump in and say, hey, what about your hair? So I don't know if it's always about hearing for me, but I mean, I won't admit it on
There's
here.
other things.
Yeah, there might be. I'm just saying every man out there may have another defense.
Yeah, but just remember this: happy wife, happy life.
Oh, I swear by it. I that's why I'm a chef. That's why I spend every dollar I earn. I'm a chef. I take care of her, and those that know my dear beloved Natasha, they know full well that woman rules the roost, and I will jump. So speaking of which, I want to kind of switch over, Sophie. Again, I think we're a lot similar in this retrospect. I mean, kids, family, life. This is Sophie Cushing. I mean, you're an amazing mom. You're an amazing wife. I know your family very dearly. But give us a little bit, like, you mentioned hobbies, you're walking, hiking, canoeing. I'm like, check, check, check. I love the outdoors. That's awesome. People may not know about it. What are just some things that you want to share that we can kind of chat about a bit, that, the audience might be surprised that this hearing specialist does on, when she's off?
Oh, I don't know. I cook a
It's
lot.
when we get,
I
when
meal
we get
prep.
time off. That is when we get time off.
When we get time off. I'm trying to think here. I did write some stuff here. I mean, the biggest thing I do is I spend a lot of time with my husband when I'm off. When the kids were little, we were very much activated in all their sports. So it's been kind of a nice reassurance that we actually like each other's company. Because we were divide and conquer. We had 3 kids in a city where we didn't have
Yeah.
family. So it all, the shoulder, everything laid on us. So, I mean, I've had great friends along the way. It's funny how life travels where you have some family members or other families come into your life and some come out of your life. But I've along the way, I've made some really close people, and I was always shocked of the caliber of talent in this community, and whether it's through sports or arts or just business minds, it's always been shocking. I love networking.
Yeah.
I mean, I could spend all my free time networking with Gord. I mean, that's kind of what we did. I like to knit. I'm not a good knitter,
No.
but I like to knit. Yes.
See, this is like, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't have
And
guessed
I
that one.
and I kind of like to play with tarot cards.
Oh,
So that's
really?
kind of
I could have
I
guessed that one,
do.
I think I could
Yeah.
have guessed that one.
So I kind of play around with that a little bit, just to pass the time with friends. And
It freaked
yeah,
them
no,
out.
it's
It's
it.
like they've overstayed their welcome. Death card.
I'm not good at it.
You don't have to be if
I'm
you're
not
planting the
good.
cards just to move them around. But I think that's cool what you
Yeah.
said, because I think you guys are in the same stage as we are, kind of, where we're dedicated to family. Natasha and I have 5, right? But they're all old and we mean nothing now. Like, they still come home to hug us every now and then, but like you said, there's no more divide and conquer, because they all have their own cars, or they have their means, or they have their friends, or what I find in our household is they're in that stage now where they're starting to build those roots for their own families, and we're going to become that annoying visiting grandparents, or just mom and dad that are invading on their time because they know what wine dates are and stuff now. But I find something you said was really cool, because I always said, Natasha and I, it's like we're dating again, and it's awesome to see that we still can date,
Mm.
right?
I agree.
Like,
Although this
yeah.
pandemic has killed it, but I mean,
I don't
at
know.
least
I've
I'm
seen
not
some pretty
wanting to
cool
shoot him.
stuff. Yeah, but I've seen pretty cool stuff. Like, I saw it online the other day, and they were doing like a themed date night. So like, you rush home and well, it's
Mhm.
probably harder because you guys are right beside each other, so he knows when you leave. But but you race home, and the one couple that I saw, I thought it was hilarious. They did a Zoom date night, but for themselves, but they took photos. So it was pajamas on the bottom, and they dressed up top. So that was their
Oh,
Zoom
that's funny.
date night, and they sat
Oh,
across from
that's
each
funny.
other at the table on their iPads, but then they took photos when they stood up, and they were in pajama bottoms with like a nice
Oh,
blouse.
that's
And
funny.
I thought that was
Yeah.
hilarious. And then there's the mystery
Yeah.
dish, is you try to cook something that you've never cooked for each other, and you reveal the plate at the dinner to each other.
No. No.
No?
I want to know what I'm eating, and I want to know
So do
it's
I,
good.
but
So
I mean,
I don't even want to take a chance with that,
all right,
because
go. We'll tell Gord to
I
take that off
love
the
my food.
table. That one's not
Oh yeah,
allowed to
no,
be
I
date
need
night.
good food.
That's,
No, no,
yeah.
no, no, no.
Well, I'm a big guy. I like my food too. I'm the chef. I have to agree. I don't think I'd want Natasha making my supper. I mean, she can bake. I
Gord's a
can't
good
bake.
cook.
Yeah, see, Natasha's
Well,
a
I've
good
had her
baker.
baking. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, but she
Yeah,
can't
she's pretty
cook.
amazing.
And I can't
Oh.
bake. I burn baking. I'm horrible. But I can cook a dish for a meal. It's weird. I don't know. It's probably connected to my hearing.
Maybe. I know someone.
Um, yeah. Well, that's it. And it's another thing too, is because I was thinking about it. One of my staff said they went in for a hearing test because Ange has been telling them that, you're going deaf. Like, you're not hearing everything. Kind of what you
Hmm.
said, where you're missing I forget the words you used that were kind of like hair and
High
nair.
frequencies.
Yeah. So he's missing that stuff. So he went and got tested. And I think that was the term they used, was mild hearing loss.
Right.
I don't know who did it. They went to the wrong place. That's all I'm going to say. Um,
That's okay.
that's okay. It was through work or something. Anyway, but we were talking about it, and he's the same as me. We had swimmer's ear. So for me, if I go swimming
Oh.
in a lake or a river, and I've heard, the more I talk about this, the more common it is. If I go into a body of water, even when we we're in the Dominican, it happened, I end up with total deaf, total swelled within 2 days ear infection. I am deaf. Swells the internal canal, and it's bacteria or
So
something in the water that triggers it. Now, tell me that's not going to murder my ear eventually.
So what's funny is you say that, but this year we saw a lot in
Yes.
August because the water was so warm that there was bacteria in the water. Sometimes I find, now I'm not
No.
a
Yeah.
doctor, so I'm just talking about what I see. So I'm going to put
I'm a
that out
doctor.
there. But if you have an accumulation, but if you have an accumulation of wax in your
Yeah.
ears, um, and a lot of it, the water's going to get in behind and sit. So you're a
Yeah.
big guy. So you're probably run hotter than
Always
most
hot.
people. So, right. So if you think about that, if you've gotten stagnant water in behind your ear canal, that's going to happen. The best thing I can recommend is use, when you're in the shower, our water is clean now. It's not like it
Yes.
used to be where it may not be of clean. We have really clean water. We have a good water system. Soap and water in your ears will kind of break down any kind of residual wax, and it's also called cerumen. And cerumen, believe it or not, it's a toxin, like it's an excrement. It comes
Exactly.
out of your body. You're not supposed to leave it
Yeah.
in there. Like you blow your nose when it's itchy, so you should be taking out your wax when it's accumulative, which we've been doing a lot now. Kathleen and I are fully trained. We have extra training for that. I have a vacuum, I have a headlight, I have everything, gloves. We do all the PPE required, but it's actually extremely common. And I'm still shocked of how many people don't use soap and water in their ears when they're in the shower. And I believe, from what I talk to people, it's that whole growing up with don't put water in your ears kind of situation,
I
but yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
but I really think that you have to be really careful with any water that might have any kind of slight bacteria. I mean, we deal with bacteria on our skin all the time and we're fine with it. But we wash our face more often, we wash our hands more often. And perhaps that bacteria, maybe you have an accumulation of wax that needs to be syringed. And because you have that wax, it's staying in your ear a little bit longer to take hold and grow in your ear. And it's usually
Yes.
fungal.
So what I was going to say was the stigma of it. I remember when I was little is they pretty much said that, well, let's put it this way. They put the fear of God in a teenager that gets these painful ear infections. And really the stigma and the message was to keep all water away from my ear. So as I got older, I
Mm-hmm.
think I was in college when I went and I said to the doctor, I'm like, okay, bud, this is like every June when I go camping, I jump into the lake at Quantico and my half of my trip is ruined because it gets itchy first, and then I'm like, okay, I need antibiotics within a day or I'm going to be deaf.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I finally went to like a real specialist. I forget where I went. I think it
An
was
ENT,
peripheral
yeah.
yeah, and they pretty much that's where the stigma was exploded. They're like, wash your ears. And I'm the same. I'm like, it's not really a topic you have with your kids, I think, is it's always wash, what is it? Wash your hands, wash behind your ears. It's never wash in your ears. And it's one of those things that I was terrified back then to get water
Mm-hmm.
near my ears because I knew what pain would come if an infection came. So anyway, long
Yeah.
story short, the end of it was I'm just susceptible to this, and it's nothing to do with water. It's seasonal. It's every June and August, late August, early September, and it's religiously within a week of the same days every year that I get it, and it's pollen.
Mm.
It's certain
But we don't.
pollen that
It
attacks
it
me.
would be interesting. Yeah, it would be interesting to know how much wax you have in your ears, though.
Yeah, and I know in the past I've had like that's been an avenue that some of the like my doctor, just my regular doctor, he'd be like, "Oh, you don't have an ear infection. You need to get your ears pumped." I went in, I think it was
Mm.
Dr. Bad at the time, and he got that
Mm-hmm.
vacuum thing and sucked my ears out. And he'd be
Mm-hmm.
like, "It's not that bad." And lo and behold, it took 15 years for somebody to say it's not water, it's pollen.
Yeah,
So
and it
it was
could
weird.
be very well
Yeah,
be.
I
Yeah,
always say,
I mean, I've seen
I,
everything in people's ears.
I couldn't imagine. It's like
Everything.
finding lost crayons from when you were a 2-year-old.
I
So
think the neatest thing I saw was someone had been baking and they used flax seeds. So they were baking, their ears got itchy and they kind of might have had a little seed. Anyways, it grew in her ear.
no.
It grew in her ear. It
Oh my
grew in
God.
her ear. And it was so far down the canal. I was like, I can't touch this. You got to go to the hospital. But they took it out and it was a little pot of flaxseed that,
Can
with
you
the water and moisture and heat grew. Like, I should have taken a
um,
picture, but I didn't.
you should have, because I'll tell you, we've done a couple we've done a couple podcasts now, and I hope it continues. I hope I don't jinx this. Um Everyone has had a story like this, and I'm like, this is gold. Like,
Mhm.
some people are all nervous and say, you're a professional and you're a straight faced person, and no expression or fun or joy, or what's the crazy story. Who would have ever thought they were growing a flaxseed plant as a root of their hearing issues?
Yeah,
That's
so funny.
awesome. So,
Yeah.
we're coming up on the end of this, and there's one topic I do want to get on. I've been avoiding most people about the COVID pandemic talks and everything else, but I want to kind of go to
Okay.
something you highlighted. The use of technical care, because I mean, I don't want to stereotype, but I imagine most of your clients are of elder age or in that danger category when it comes to the pandemic, and we see that number dropping. So I mean, even me at 43, I'm kind of in the yellow zone with COVID. Like, we have to be aware. So you mentioned you have services, technology to help and to treat those clients that may be a little more nervous to leave their homes. Can you kind of elaborate
Mhm.
on that and just give me a sense of what Thousand Lands Hearing has going on for that?
Sure. So we've been really kind of lucky. I started playing with telecare a couple of years ago, and it really came to flourish in January. So I had my headsets and my video cameras kind of already lined up. I had gotten them at the end of January. And what the manufacturers have started to do is, with technology being so advanced, is hearing aids now you can receive all your phone calls through your hearing aids. You can move the volume up, down, clarity, everything. So now what they've allowed us to do is they've allowed us to do remote tuning. So someone comes in for the test. If someone's from far away and I've got the product in stock, if I know they're coming in, which I typically don't, but I did bring some stock in during the first wave because I
Right.
was nervous. I didn't know what was going to happen. So for some people, they came in, we tested them and we fitted them. And some of them had iPads. So that was our saviors. So we could connect them with an account through iPad. That first initial visit was long. It was 2.5 hours, and everyone was exhausted at the end. But
Yeah.
we could do remote tuning after, just like it would be like a FaceTime, where I could actually access their instrument. So if it was a minor adjustment where they needed more volume, or they needed less volume, or they felt it too sharp or too soft, I was able to actually go in through, or am and continue to be able to actually go in and manipulate the hearing aid itself to fit the client's complaint. So it's almost no different than them being in office. Exactly.
So
Um,
are you
at
sorry,
first, we all had go ahead.
yeah, are you able, so just I want to just kind of hit before we lose track of that. So with them in FaceTime, or in that realm of FaceTime, or like what you and I are doing right now, you're telling me
Telecare, yeah,
you're adjusting that piece of
real
equipment. Like,
time,
are they able, and they're able to tell you that that
yeah.
high pitched scream is gone, or maybe their wife's in the back corner going, "Hey, what are you doing on the iPad?" And they can actually say, "Oh, I can hear her now. Thanks a lot, Sophie."
Complete real time. So,
That's
like,
cool.
if you and I were here, I would be able to move that door behind you. Now, that would be
That's
freaky.
really
But
good.
no,
That's the
it's the
tarot
same kind
cards.
of thing.
That's back to the tarot cards. That's
um,
that's full on witchcraft.
No. But yeah, no, that allows us to do real time. So it's been quite great. The challenge is just how tech savvy they are. The
Yeah.
other challenge is that as people want hearing aids that are invisible because they don't want anyone to see them,
Right,
um,
that stigma
that
of, I don't want to look like
that's right.
a 90-year-old man with this giant piece of equipment, but I mean, it's not that way anymore, right?
Well,
Like, they're not
they're
huge
better. They
devices.
definitely
Yeah.
are. No, and they've made them really nice, but they've gone back to being slightly bigger again because of all this telecare. So the ones in the ears, now there's a really new launch coming out, which is really exciting. We're finally seeing some hearing aids that are rechargeables, but in the ear, and that's probably been brought on and really kind of pushed out on the market because of the masks, because we don't think
Yeah.
they're going away anytime soon. But they're much more visible than the traditional invisible hearing aids used to be. However, I mean, I can still do this with them, which is very, very appealing to many. And as unfortunately our younger generation is needing more and more hearing aids, they're
Yeah.
used to seeing something in their ears. So for them to have something in their ears at 42 when they've been wearing AirPods since they've been 33, it's not a big deal.
And do you see that, like you mentioned, they're getting bigger again? And I just listen to you, and I love this. I'm learning. Do you find that because the younger generation is needing more help, and they're probably more technically geared as to what they want the hearing aid to do, to connect to, is that pushing the size then because of that? Like, they're wanting more tech, therefore, eventually you're going to run out of space in a hearing aid of everything it can do. Is the size, do you think, growing because of that useful use? You know?
Perhaps. I think
Yeah.
you're pretty sure on that. However, like anything, they go bigger and then they go smaller
Yeah. Yeah.
because then the R&D is like, okay, we can do this now. Like technology is changing. By the time you get your phone, it's outdated. Well, unfortunately, by the time you get your hearing aids, they're working on a new chip, and hearing aids only last 3 to 5 years. By the time you hit year 3, it's it's an electronic unit. It's starting to fail. It's been heated up
Yeah.
12, 14 hours a day, every day of the year for 3 to 4 years. It's going to fail. And it's funny because people say, oh my gosh, I spent so much on it and it only lasts 4 years or 3.5 years. And I'm like, but you're using it every single day for 12 to 14 hours a day. What else have you used that much that will last 3 to 4 years?
Yeah. No. And what have they put it through? Are they swimming? Are they are they active
Well,
at
you
the
shouldn't be
gym? So
swimming
there's
with your electronics.
Oh, well, again, I don't know, but I'm just saying, I'm just thinking, like, oops, I forgot to take them out, let's say.
Exactly. That
So
happens all the time.
exactly, or into the shower, or they're working out, and it gets bumped all the time, or they putting big headphones like what you and I are wearing right now, or they
Mhm.
pressuring it. Like, so yeah, I mean, 3 years sounds pretty good. I mean, the average iPhone only lasts like a year and a half, 2 years now, and it's like
Yeah.
chugging along slow.
So
So
you
3 years for a hearing aid that's pretty good time.
so when you think about it, this is the newer design of
Yep.
Signia, okay?
Yep.
And what does this make you think of?
That looks like the ear pods.
Exactly. Now look. So this is the charger.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, it's exactly looks like an ear pod. Yeah.
So
And
guess
we'll get a
guess what
picture of
kind of
that, and
battery
we'll
they
post.
use?
Is it the same
It
as the
uses
Apple?
this. Yes. So
That
if
always
someone
amazes
wants to
me.
have,
Go
yeah,
ahead. No, that always
if
just amazes
somebody,
me, is why don't they share this technology? Because I don't, like, I'm going to date myself a little bit. I was a big BlackBerry guy. BlackBerry phones had amazing battery life and signal. I don't care.
yes.
and then the iPhone comes out. So I switched to the iPhone because my kids didn't need cell service and could iMessage. So I could actually not spend money on a phone to text my children when they came to that age. But then I realized, oh my God, the battery sucks. Now, this has been 10 years past and the battery's great now, but why don't they just share this technology? Because those ear pods, I know my kids have them. I haven't done that yet because I just think they look like a Q-tip sticking out of your ear for me.
I love them.
Do you? See, Natasha does too, and I just can't. I'm like, I don't know. I'm old school. I like, as much as I don't want to admit I'm an old guy, I'm a grumpy old man. and and I'm just like, it looks like they're walking around with Q-tips in their ears. But why can't they share that
Yeah.
tech with, especially someone like you, that's all you're trying to do is the betterment of some human being that's having a little bit of hearing issues or major
Yeah.
hearing issues. And there's technology out there for somebody to scroll on Facebook all day, but they can't hear their wife or their loved ones sing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It is. But
Yeah.
so one other thing you mentioned the other day when we were talking was neat. So just briefly, the effects of COVID with you guys and the mental health. I mean, you're an essential service. Definitely. I don't think that's up for argument in any way, shape, or form. But with this second lockdown, I mean, you were mentioning the other day that you're seeing people just need to get out, need even I imagine like what they do here is it's just that conversation. They kind of hang around a little longer because they haven't talked to anyone for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Your 2 cents on that and the detriment effects and what you guys are doing to make sure everyone feels warm and fuzzy and welcome.
Well, I mean, I know I spoke to it the other day when we had a networking group.
Yes.
And what I'm seeing is our clients that are living alone and their kids are out of town. Because Brockville, quite frankly, a lot of our kids leave and they don't come back, or they come
Yeah.
back much later. So we have a big elderly population that don't have any children in town. Some of them, they have to drive because
Yeah.
they don't have any support. They haven't seen anybody for who knows how long.
Yeah.
And they're coming in and they've been alone. So that social interaction has really hurt their ability to socially interact or hear or understand social cues. So, what I've seen, unfortunately, is some clients have come in and, I see them 1 month and I see them 2 months later, and they're still wearing the same clothes that are dirty from 2 months prior. And it's quite sad because these are very, very, very alert and strong people. But during this 1 year of not having to see anybody, they've lost that ability to understand what social norms are. So some of the times that I see a big influx of people coming in is during Christmas, during Mother's Day, Father's Day, Thanksgiving. We see, people calling because they've seen their family, and their family member will say, you know what, like your hearing's really becoming a concern. We need to get something going for you. And their kids will call me and we'll get them in and sort them out. But now that the children or other friends or their social networks aren't interacting, they're being missed. So whether it's your best friend saying, oh, you know what, it's time to go get your hair done, or if it's your daughter saying, okay, mom, let's go get your nails done, and let's get some food in here, let's make some plates, or okay, mom, it's time to go shopping. Those pants are just too old now. It's time to go get shopping. All their basic social needs are being missed.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a big analogy guy, and I mentioned to my daughter. I think I was talking to my wife, and my daughter, 18-year-old, she's starting to ask and try to learn from stuff. And I was talking about your comments about that isolation and kind of like the separation effects from not being near people. And I'm a big outdoors guy. I love survival camping. I always have. But a lot of us can relate to that in the sense of the show like Survivor, or there's another one called Alive on HGTV, which is great. But if people don't watch kind of the bonus stuff or do the googling like I do or watch the podcasts about these guys, they're alone for 3 months. Survivor alone 3 months with the same 20 people and slowly take one or two persons away a week. What people don't realize is at the end of those shows, it's 2 to 4 weeks of readjustment to the society, and that's only 3 months. We've been in this pandemic now. In the senior realm, they've been hardcore separated and segregated for 12 months.
And
So those shows we love are 3 months long and it takes 3 weeks. So that tells me we're talking 8 weeks of reconditioning to introduce those that have been isolated back into population now, even just mentally. That's crazy.
yeah, and many of them don't know how to use technology, right?
Right. But I mean, even just
So
that
they can't
social
even
experiment.
Zoom. They can't even
Yeah,
Zoom. So
it's
they're
crazy.
literally alone. So, you know, we're seeing more in the Globe and Mail real call out to mental illness going
Yeah.
on and all that surge happening. And I think everyone in essential services is actually seeing it and can relate to it. Um, Normal tasks for work is, you have to do 10 times more than what you did before
Hmm.
to accomplish the same task. Well, that's emotionally and physically exhausting. We have massage therapy over next door, and I know the girls quite well. And it's funny because they're like, yeah, my shoulders hurt not from massaging, but from cleaning
Yeah. Yeah.
because
No,
of
and it's
how much they have to do.
my wife with the salon, she said the same thing was, that she used to come home and she'd only complain about her feet from standing so long. But no, it is. It's a collective thing. And I know we could go on for hours about the effects of
Yeah.
that. And I would. And I think all we can say in a closing on that is, and especially you and I, we've had lots of discussions. Mental health is a key thing. You may see Sophie sitting there, and you can agree or disagree with this, Sophie, at the end of it, but you can see me sitting here and know what you know from a distance about me,
Mhm.
and you can do the same for Sophie. But you and I've had lots of conversations about self-esteem, self-image, health, like mental health of each other,
Mhm.
and don't just judge thinking that because someone's successful or they're happily married and they're doing all this stuff that they're not in the same boat. So that open communication is really key, because like I said, you and I've had a few key discussions about personal topics, and I'll tell you, you've made me feel better.
Aw.
And I'm sure, and you have. I mean, I know it was the talk at the home show, at the
Yeah.
trade show at the Grenville Christian College, and I said to my wife afterwards, she's like, what was that all about? Just out of curiosity. And I said, all I know is Sophie's going to be a dear friend for the rest of my life.
Aw,
And
that's cute.
it was really, well, it is, it's cool. But if people are terrified to say, hey, oh, really, Sophie, you have that? So do I.
Mhm.
Sometimes hearing so do I
Mhm.
is all people need to open that dialogue. And I did. I felt better that night. So, as always, I thank you for that. And it's been great. But that's it, Sophie. Like, we made it.
We
We're
made it, but I
done.
got one more thing to
Oh,
say that
do
we
it.
have to
Go.
talk.
Go ahead.
So, with Valentine's Day coming up, I want everyone to be on their high alerts because I've been approached by a manufacturer to have a really good hearing aid at an incredible price. So, never have I in my career been able to offer this deal. So, it's going to be rechargeable or non-rechargeable hearing aids from Bernafon, and I can't tell you the price, but it's unbelievable. So I'm very excited. I hope that this allows people that regularly can't afford hearing aids to get a good product at a price that is within their budget. So I'm really
So
excited about that.
can we go one step further, because this has
So
happened as well on every episode. So anyone that reaches out to Sophie and Thousand Islands Hearing in the month, is it the month of February the discount
it
happens?
starts February 14th. Yeah.
So February 14th until the end of this specific deal, Sophie will get the details on the screen for everybody.
Hmm.
But can they use the promo code flaxseed?
No.
Come on.
That was good though.
Yeah. Willie was interviewing, and everyone will see the episode when it gets published, but Willie Heidelberg from FBC is an amazing cook, and he made the ultimate hamburger, and FBC gave a promo, and the promo code was hamburger at the end of it. So I had to try for the flaxseed because that story made my day.
No.
But anyway, and people can reach out to you, and we'll have all the details on the screen. So Sophie, I want to thank you a ton. Believe it or not, I know you were nervous about doing this and talking, and you did amazing. 55 minutes, my dear.
Well, we did well. We did very well. You're easy to talk to.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll have you back again soon. We're talking about doing some a 3-person interviews so we can, have more conversation. Hopefully, in better times, we'll have it here in public. But again, I want to thank you for doing this.
Yeah, and if you ever need a co-host, I'm with you.
I think it's cool. Well, we're talking about we're actually going to the executive to see. Eventually, I'm going to have to be interviewed.
Ooh.
So there's a short list of people. I'm not going to say you're one of them, but you could be.
I could be.
Yeah, there's people going to be up for interviewing dear old Dave.
I could sit where you're sitting.
Yeah, and then I could go behind the TV like you.
Exactly.
Anyway, Sophie, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone for listening. Another episode of the Pros Talk. Be sure to use your approved professionals, just like Sophie and Thousand Island Hearing.
Thank you. Take care.